Okie dokie, welcome back. So in the last video we got this basic car demo going. You can see it on the right, got it moving with the keyboard and with a controller. Nothing particularly perfect, but yeah, we got a game like it. So next thing we're going to do now is I think I give a bit of a different itinerary in my previous video, but I think next thing we're going to look at implementing some form of enemy car to drive. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Bit of a bigger project than I normally do, so I'll see how it goes. So the first things first, you can only go to this page here, so you can get there just by searching for pathfinding.js, and you can download this zip file. Once you've got it, you can open it up, and then you can get this pathfinding.browser.min, and you can grab that, put it into there, and then all you're going to want to do is just make sure that you create a script link and make sure that's in your project like that. So no links needed, just straight in there. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to have another video coming out on specifically how you use this library, so it'll be quite sort of wishy-washy, but we'll get there in the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a group for another car. I haven't really thought of a good name for it, so I'll just call it cars. Make sure I declare it at the top. I've got cars, so cars equals a new group, and then we've got quite a lot of stuff that we're going to add in there. Okay, so I've already got a bunch of things I've already done. I've called mine other car, but I will change it to make it make a bit more sense for you guys. So you can see I've got a bunch of things in here that I've added in. We'll make it all capital and it's all the same. I can just get rid of the other. And there's a few things that we're not going to use just yet that I've got in my final project that I showed you. So like, we don't need the image just yet. We are going to get there eventually, but that'll probably be the next video when we're polishing it up and making it look nice and adding in some extra features and things like that. And then there we go. So I've got a few different things in there. So the tile for where the counter, so where the cars are going to start. So if I have it like a starting grid, like that, so I've got a little starting grid. You could argue I'm cheating, so maybe I should be in the middle of them there, so it's fair. I've then got a speed, which is just going to be, I've called it MPH, but that's just going to be a random speed value, so some will be faster than others. Again, you can change this and do what you want with it. I've got a scale in there, which for this moment in time we won't need because there's no images, and then I've just put no collider on. There's no crashing in between cars in this game. And then what we need to do is start thinking about creating this map, but in a form that a Pathfinder can use. To do that, we need to make a thing called a matrix. So do let matrix equals, now what I want is like essentially a 2D array. Now again, I'm going to pop this in the comments because it is a bit mad. When I zoom out in a second, you're going to get it, but when I just paste it in now, you're going to think, what is going on? But if I just make this preview smaller and zoom right out, what you can see is that's my path, that's my map there. But then also at the same time, this green thing here is also, I don't know if it looks any better if I zoom it anymore, but it's also the same thing. You can just about see with the ones and the zeros what my path is, which essentially we're going to have two tile maps really, but it's not actually. So again, this will be a comment, so you can just copy that in because it is quite a lot. But obviously if you was doing your own map, you're going to have to map it so wherever you can drive, so wherever a dot is, you need to have a 0, and wherever you're not going to be able to drive, you need to have a 1. No, other way around, I think actually. I think it's, I'm trying to think which way it is now. I'm pretty sure 0 is you can, and 1 is you can't, off the top of my head, but I will double check that in a second. and use this in a little while. But yeah, so that's our matrix. So if I zoom back in so we can write again, we'll ignore all that. I mean, what you can do is just collapse the whole thing. So that is our matrix. So now what we need to do is, now we've got this library we've already imported, we can just do let grid equals a new pf, which is pathfinder dot grid, and we're going to pass in my matrix, and then I'm going to make a new thing called a finder. So let finder equals a new pathfinder dot, and I've got an a star finder now. There's a few things we can do with this as well, but I'm just going to do that for now. I think in this P5, not P5, sorry, this library, it does say these are all the pathfinders. So you can use Dijkstra's, breadth first, whatever you want, and yeah, they'll all behave slightly differently. So 0 is what you can walk on, and 1 you cannot walk on. So 0 is a drivable surface in our game. So then what we're going to do, once we've going to pass this in, it should run absolutely fine. There shouldn't be any problems at this point. So let's just double check. It might be because I've missed something off. Clearly I have not defined my pathfinding. So let's just check that I haven't missed something off. As I say, it's been a while since I've done this game. So I said I've missed something stupid off. I think I might know what I've done wrong. So pathfinding browser min.js. Pathfinding, just checking it's all the right spelling. So pathfinding -browser.min.js, that's in there. So I can't see anything particularly wrong. Let's just see if I've not missed something off. Grid is new pf.grid. Let's just double check that one. pf.grid. Now, have I not defined pf somewhere? Is that what I'm looking for? Nope, I think that's all correct. I can't see why it's going to be funny. I'll have a think in a second whilst we're getting on. Because it's probably just something daft I've done, something I've missed off. So we'll carry on with this. So it makes a grid object, which is a pathfinding grid, it's called. We've then got our finder, which is going to be our pathfinding algorithm. And then what we do is we say a path equals finder.findPath. And now this is sort of the relatively awkward part, because what you've got to do is essentially say where's the start and where's the end. So you've got, I'm putting 32, 5, 20 and 5, where essentially if you think, if I zoom out a little bit, 32 columns across, 5 down to 20 across 5. So basically it's just going to go from there to there. Because what you'll notice, it's a bit difficult to tell, but what I've actually done in this, you'll see here, I've got these ones here, because what essentially I've done is, instead of having it, so you think I'm here, if I'm pathfinding to there, I'm just going to go straight to the left, but I don't want it to do that. I want it to not be able to go that way. So it's basically got an invisible wall, not in the actual game, but it does in the A-Star Pathfinder, and that's, I won't say it was a clever way, but that was just a way of getting it to go around from the start to the finish, and then you sorted. Now what you could do as well is quite easily, I'll do this in my other pathfinding video that I'm going to release, or we'll do it in that anyway, is you can change the tiles using the tile size property of P5 Play, and then essentially make it so you can just get the X and Y position. I think it's a knock one off, I think, but the X and Y position then just scales it all back, so you could just say, right, start.x and end.x, and same with the Y. That would work as well, but for now it's fine. And then that's pretty much, as far as I'm aware, all you need to do, so we can just do for, and then I'm going to say p of new path, and then I'm going to do something weird here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of sprites. Now before I do that, I'm going to have to make another group that's called node, and what that node's going to be is an invisible little group, which I can probably just make it here. So that has an attribute called visited, and then it's just a little circle. It has no collider, but we can overlap with it. And then all we're going to do is essentially we're going to draw these tiny little circles on the screen, but they are going to be hidden. So if I take this off, provided we can get this library working properly, it's still not liking PF, so I'll just double check again. Did I do that? I did the min.js, so let's just check everything's spelled correctly before I start doing anything weird and downloading stuff and that. So we've got path. Well, let's not. Let's just check it's not anything weird like that. So it turns out that I'm just an idiot and I forgot to put both pathfinding in there, and you might have noticed as well when I typed that in I didn't put the JS, so that was a great start. So I've got the two pathfinding things from the file you get, which I had in wherever it was, this one here. So these two pop in there, make sure you put the right thing, and then it does start to work. And then you've got your node group, which because I've semi-messed up my video, I'll just explain this. So we make another group called node, which is going to be essentially the things we follow, and then we use our pathfinding, we use the A* pathfinder, we create the path going from 32, which is basically 32 rows, or 32 columns, sorry, and 5 rows down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our starting grid here, and then 32 across. And you see these ones I've got here, this little bit, that is my invisible wall, which is going to stop the pathfinder just moving left instead of going around the track. So if I just make sure this is commented out so we can see it, if I run this now, you can see I've got all these weird dots. If I just zoom out by commenting this line out, what you should see is essentially that is my full path. Now you do see that it's a little bit janky in terms of it's very straight, like straight up, down, that way. It's following it a really efficient path, but it's not like cutting corners or going diagonals. So what we can do is we can add in some additional information to the pathfinder to make it work a little bit more efficiently. So what we can do is, first things first, we can add in some parameters here. So what I can do is I can add a curly bracket which has an object in, and I can say allow diagonal and true, like that. So if I run that now, what you should see is if I keep it zoomed out so we can see it. Let's just, there we go. So you see now it's, instead of going straight across, it's going diagonally across here. And then we can also add in extra ones here for don't cross corners and things as well. But I think we'll leave that as it is. And another thing we can do is we can smoothen the path so we have fewer nodes, because the thing at the minute is that we've got all these invisible extra sprites that we don't really need. So if we can reduce them as much as we can, it's going to make our game more efficient. So we've got let new path equals pf dot util, so it's one of the utilities, dot smoothen path, and then we've got the grid and then the current path, but make sure it's spelled exactly the same, just like that. And that's going to help and smooth that up. And then instead of using the path in there, we can just use new path. Now if I run that, what we should see is the dots are a bit more spaced out, so it's going to go from there to there to there, then across to there, and hopefully draw a really nice line across here. So it's like essentially cutting the corners a little bit. But that's what would happen in real driving. You go across the chicanes and the edges and things like that. I mean, I'm not a driver, can you tell? And then what we can do is we can just put that in there. And then now I've got my cars and I've got my path that you can't see now. So next thing we're going to want to do is allow the car to drive. So I'm just going to put AI move as a function. I'm going to make a new function called function AI move. Now all we're going to do here is for loop through a bunch of stuff. So if I just do for C of cars, so I'm going to go through every car, and then what I'm going to do is say there. So I'm going to say if there's a node at the current counter I'm on. So if you remember, we made the car. Can I hide that now? Yes, I can, and I can hide this as well, so we don't have to keep scrolling past it. I had this idea of a car.counter or cars.counter. So what I'm going to do, let's hide the controls as well, is what I'm going to say is that each of these nodes, because the first one will be here, second, and so on, I'm just going to go to each one of the in the node array. So if it exists, so any errors pop up, we're going to say c.move to, and then node, and then c.counter. So each car is going to go to its own individual one at a speed of c.mph. And then I think I scaled it down because it went a little bit too fast. And then we just need to do c.rotate min 2, and then node c.counter, and then how fast we want to rotate to. So we'll do 10, 0, and then all we need to do now is, while this is happening, so it's going to drive to each one and rotate to it, move to it, and all that. We're going to say for p of so I call it p n of node, like that. I'm going to say if c dot overlaps n. So if a car overlaps a node, that particular car goes up in a counter. So fingers crossed this works first time, doesn't embarrass me. But what should happen is each car will go towards its first node, second node, third node, and keep looping all the way around. Once it gets to this point here, we just need to reset back to 0. So we can just do else c.counter equals 0. So once it gets to the end, there isn't another one to go to, because this eventually will overflow and it'll get to beyond the array. So if it doesn't exist, is what I'm saying there, we just set the count to 0 and it'll go around again. So fingers crossed that works. Nothing breaks. So you see there, these cars are now following that path, and then they're all driving normally. So that's pretty good. They're all driving at the same speed at this point. Now you might see this sort of slightly going through this edge here, and that's, I think that's actually down to my path being slightly off, my actual borders being slightly off, because these cars have got no collider, you see. So they are cutting through there, but I think that's down to I've got a slightly overlapped image, which we'll get to in a moment. But that's pretty much it. I think it's actually just slightly out on this, and I think it's down to this matrix here. You see I've got these two 0, 0s there. I actually think it's to do with that, but do I really want to sit and sort these out? Probably not, but I've started doing it now. So, but I think that's why it's cutting the corners. But you see they've gone to the start now, and they're actually still driving. So that is essentially our AI sorted. Obviously what we could do is potentially, as like an extension to the program, is we could give each car its own separate path it goes through. So it might be like a I don't know, a good path, bad path, whatever syntax you want to use, where certain cars will have a better racing line than others. That could be a thing. I think that would probably work. Or you've got your different speeds. I think that's, oh no, that's still not right. Probably gonna mess the whole thing up now, don't this? All this work just to make the track look a little bit nicer. For what? I don't know. I'd probably just skip past this bit if I was you guys, if I'm honest with you. Right, I think that's about right. Don't know if it's going to work any better. I feel like it should. It'll probably break the whole thing, no doubt. But I'm just hoping it doesn't cut around these corners as much. But we'll see. But that's them driving anyway. So I'll just let them drive. I won't worry about it too much. Because I know it works in the other game, you see, because of the image I've rolled over the top. So we've got our controls. We've got our car. So I think that's about right. It should be just overlapping slightly, because that's where the border of the track's going to be. Still cutting across a little bit there. We'll see how it looks. So that's pretty much the cars working. So I think we'll stop it there. Next video we're going to look at overlaying the picture and how we went about actually drawing that image. So hopefully you liked that. It wasn't too confusing. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.